The metal door slid open with a quiet hiss. Claire Martinez stepped into the white room, her black shoes clicking softly on the clean floor. She carried a data pad in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. The smell of the coffee mixed with the cold, recycled air of the ship. Across the small table sat something that still made her stomach twist. Commander Zethkar looked like a nightmare made real. His body was covered in dark green plates that looked like armor but grew from his skin. 4 yellow eyes sat in his large head, each one the size of a human fist. His mouth was full of sharp teeth and 2 long curved tusks stuck out from his lower jaw. Scars covered his arms and chest, white lines that told stories of old battles. The alien was huge. Even sitting down, he was taller than Claire when she stood. His hands ended in claws that could tear through metal. But right now, those dangerous hands were folded on the table like he was trying to look polite. Claire sat down and placed her coffee cup carefully on the table. She opened her data pad and looked at the alien commander. His 4 eyes watched her every move. She could see intelligence in those yellow orbs and something else. Fear, maybe, or confusion. "Good morning, Commander Zethkar," Claire said in a calm voice. "I hope you slept well." The alien's head tilted slightly. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I do not understand why you give me comfort. Your people should have killed me by now." Claire nodded and made a note on her pad. "We don't kill prisoners of war. It's against our laws and our beliefs." "Laws." Zethkar repeated the word slowly. "Your species has strange laws." "Tell me about your laws," Claire said. She took a sip of her coffee and waited. The alien's 4 eyes blinked one after another. "The strong take what they want. The weak serve or die. This is the way of the Vorthak Empire. And you're strong?" "I was." His voice got quieter. "I commanded 3 battle fleets. I have conquered 17 worlds. I have killed thousands in combat." He paused and looked at his clawed hands. "But your people made me feel weak." Claire leaned forward slightly. "This was interesting. How did we make you feel weak?" Zethkar's mandibles clicked together, making a sound like bones breaking. "We studied your colonies for months. We watched your people work their farms and build their homes. You looked soft, weak, like easy prey. But we weren't?" "No." The word came out like a growl. "When we attacked, your people fought like demons." But that was not the strange part. Many species fight when cornered. Claire waited for him to continue. She had learned that silence often made people talk more than questions did. "The strange part was what happened after the fighting," Zethkar said. His voice was confused, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "One of my warriors was hurt badly. His leg was torn open and he was bleeding. He could not move." The alien stopped talking and stared at the white wall behind Claire. "What happened to your warrior?" she asked gently. "One of your soldiers found him, a female with brown hair and kind eyes. She could have killed him easily." He was helpless. Zethkar's claws scraped against the table. Instead, she carried him to safety. She used her own medical supplies to stop his bleeding. She gave him water from her own bottle. Claire made another note. "What did you think about that?" "I thought it was a trick. Some kind of trap." The alien's 4 eyes all focused on Claire. "But it was not. Your soldier saved my warrior's life and asked for nothing in return. When more of your people came, they took him to a medical center. They gave him the same care they gave their own wounded. That surprises you?" "Yes." Zethkar's voice was barely above a whisper. "In Vorthak culture, the wounded are a burden. If they cannot fight, they are left to die. It makes the army stronger." Claire felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "You leave your own people to die? Only the weak. The strong survive and make the empire stronger." He said it like he was reciting a lesson he had learned long ago. "But your people, you save everyone, even your enemies." "Life has value," Claire said simply. "Value." The alien repeated the word like it was foreign to him. "What value does a wounded enemy have?" "Every life has value because it's unique. No one else in the universe is exactly like that person. When someone dies, all their thoughts and dreams and memories die with them. That's a loss we can never get back." Zethkar stared at her for a long moment. His 4 eyes blinked slowly, one after another, then all at once. "You really believe that?" he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, I do." "Even my life has value? Even though I came to destroy your colonies?" Claire nodded. "Even your life has value." The alien commander sat back in his chair. The metal creaked under his weight. This is why you have not killed me. This is why you give me food and a place to sleep and ask me questions instead of torturing me for information. We don't torture prisoners. Ever. But I am your enemy. I ordered the deaths of your people. I would have enslaved your children and burned your cities. I know, Claire said calmly, but that doesn't change who we are. We treat our prisoners with dignity because that's what makes us human. Zethkar was quiet for a long time. He stared at his hands, opening and closing his claws slowly. When he looked up again, there was something different in his yellow eyes. Your species, he said slowly. You fight differently than any we have encountered. How so? Most species fight for territory or resources or power. Simple things that make sense. His voice got deeper, more thoughtful. But you fight for ideas. For beliefs. For people you have never met, Claire nodded. Sometimes the most important battles are fought for things you can't hold in your hands. I do not understand this, Zethkar admitted. But I want to. Will you help me understand? Claire smiled for the first time since entering the room. That's exactly why I'm here, Commander. To help you understand us and to help us understand you. The alien's mandibles clicked softly. It might have been the closest thing to a smile his species could manage. Then let us begin, he said. But I warn you, human Claire Martinez, what you show me may change me forever. Change isn't always a bad thing, Claire replied, taking another sip of her coffee. Sometimes it's exactly what we need. Claire returned the next day with a small device in her hands. The room looked the same as before, white walls and bright lights. Commander Zethkar sat in the same chair, but today he looked different. Less tense. His 4 yellow eyes watched her with curiosity instead of suspicion. What is that machine? He asked as Claire set the device on the table between them. A holographic projector. I want to show you something about my people. Claire pressed a button and the air above the table began to shimmer. You said we fight differently than other species. I think you need to see why. The air solidified into shapes and colors. Suddenly they were looking at a vast grassland under a blue sky. Strange creatures moved through the tall grass. Some looked like giant cats with long teeth. Others were massive, with tusks and thick hides. What are these beasts? Zethkar leaned forward, his claws clicking on the table. Earth 50,000 years ago. These are the predators my ancestors faced. Claire pointed at the hologram. Look there. A group of small, hairless creatures appeared. They were clearly human, but primitive. They carried sticks and stones. One of the saber-toothed cats crept toward them, its muscles bunched for an attack. Zethkar watched as the humans spotted the predator. Instead of running, they spread out and surrounded it. They worked together, using their simple tools to drive the dangerous animal away. They are so small, the alien commander said quietly. How did they survive against such creatures? By working together, by never giving up, by adapting. Claire changed the image. Now they saw humans making fire, crafting better weapons, building shelters. My people have always faced things bigger and stronger than them. We learned that survival meant fighting smart, not just fighting hard. The images moved faster through time. Bronze weapons replaced stone. Humans built cities and armies. Zethkar saw battles where thousands of soldiers clashed with spears and swords. Look at this, Claire said, stopping at one scene. It showed Roman soldiers building a wall while enemies attacked them. Some soldiers fought while others continued working. Even under attack, they kept building. They never stopped trying to make things better. Zethkar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Most species would retreat and try again later. Humans don't retreat very often. And when we do, we come back stronger. The hologram shifted to show medieval knights in heavy armor charging across a field. Then it changed again to show massive stone castles under siege. Catapults hurled rocks at the walls while defenders poured hot oil on attackers below. They fight their own kind, Zethkar observed, his voice puzzled. Yes, humans have always fought each other, over land, over beliefs, over resources. Claire's voice grew sad. It's one of our greatest weaknesses and one of our greatest strengths. I do not understand. How is fighting your own kind a strength? Claire paused the hologram on an image of 2 armies facing each other across a muddy field. Because we learned from every fight. Every war taught us new ways to battle, new ways to survive. We became harder to kill because we practiced on each other for thousands of years. The alien commander stared at the image. Your species has been at war with itself for its entire history? Almost all of it. But watch what happens next. The hologram moved forward in time. The images became more detailed. More terrible. Cannons appeared, then rifles. Soldiers in blue and gray uniforms shot at each other across open fields. Zethkar's four eyes widened as he saw the carnage. Bodies lay scattered across battlefields. Wounded soldiers crawled through mud and blood. So much death, he whispered. Yes. But look closer. Claire zoomed in on part of the battle. A soldier in a gray uniform was helping a wounded enemy in blue. Even in the middle of killing each other, humans showed mercy. The hologram changed again. Now they saw the inside of a field hospital. Doctors and nurses worked frantically to save wounded soldiers. Some of the patients wore blue uniforms, others wore gray. They healed their enemies? Zethkar's voice cracked slightly. When the fighting stops, yes. Human doctors take an oath to help anyone who needs healing. It doesn't matter which side they fought for. The images moved forward again. World War I appeared in all its horror. Soldiers crouched in muddy trenches while explosions shook the earth around them. Poison gas drifted across no man's land like yellow death. Zethkar gripped the edge of the table so hard his claws left scratches in the metal. What kind of weapons are those? Chemical weapons. Poison gas that burns your lungs and blinds your eyes. Claire's voice was flat and professional, but her hands shook slightly. My people invented ways to kill that were so terrible, we eventually banned them. You banned your own weapons? Some of them, yes. We decided there were limits to what we would do, even to our enemies. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very small. Your species fought in those muddy holes for 4 years? 4 years. Millions died, but they kept fighting. Why did they not surrender? Why did they not find easier prey elsewhere? Claire looked directly into his 4 yellow eyes. Because surrender wasn't an option. Each side believed they were fighting for something more important than their own. The hologram showed soldiers going over the top, climbing out of their trenches to charge across the deadly ground between the armies. Most of them fell before they took 10 steps. But more soldiers climbed out behind them. They knew they would die, Zethkar said. It wasn't a question, most of them, yes. But they went anyway. For what? What could be worth such sacrifice? Claire changed the image to show families back home. Children playing in streets. Women working in factories. Old men tending gardens for them. For the people they loved. For the idea that some things are worth dying for. Zethkar stared at the peaceful scene for a long time. When he looked back at Claire, something had changed in his eyes. Your species, he said slowly. You have been preparing for war your entire existence. Every battle, every weapon, every tactic. You have been learning how to fight creatures like me for 50,000 years. Claire nodded. Without meaning to, yes. And when you fight, you do not fight just for victory. You fight for something bigger than yourself. Almost always. The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of distress in his species. We thought you were prey animals. Soft things that would break easily. I can see why you might think that. But you are not prey animals at all. His voice was getting higher, more strained. You are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, and you do not even know it. Claire reached over and gently touched his massive clawed hand. We know, Commander. That's exactly why we try so hard to be something else. The third day brought Lieutenant Dan Weber with Claire into the White Room. Dan was a young man with short brown hair and quiet eyes. He carried a larger holographic device and set it up without saying much. Zethkar watched him work, his 4 yellow eyes following every movement. Today we're going to show you more recent conflicts, Claire said, as Dan finished setting up the equipment, things that happened closer to our current time. The hologram activated and filled the room with images of World War II. Massive machines rolled across landscapes. Planes filled the skies like metal birds. Ships larger than buildings sailed across endless oceans. Zethkar's claws extended involuntarily as he saw the scale of destruction. Entire cities lay in ruins. The weapons were bigger, deadlier, more efficient at killing than anything he had seen before. Your people built all of this to fight each other? He asked in disbelief. Yes, Dan spoke for the first time. His voice was steady but sad. We got very good at making war. The images shifted to show soldiers storming beaches under heavy fire. Bodies fell into the surf while others pressed forward. Zethkar watched as men climbed over their fallen friends to continue the attack. Why do they keep going? He whispered. So many are dying. Because stopping means everyone behind them dies too, Claire explained. Sometimes the only way through hell is straight ahead. The hologram changed to show something that made Zethkar's mandibles click in confusion. Human soldiers were sharing their food with thin, scared people in striped clothes. The rescued people looked barely alive. "What are those places?" he asked, pointing at the buildings in the background. "Concentration camps, places where humans put other humans they decided were different or dangerous." Claire's voice was heavy with shame. "Some of the worst things our species has ever done. But your soldiers are helping them, yes. When we found these places, we freed everyone we could. We gave them food and medicine and safety." Dan leaned forward. The same soldiers who had been fighting and killing stopped everything to save strangers. Zethkar stared at the image of a large human soldier, gently lifting a sick child. "I do not understand. These people were not his tribe, not his family. Why does he care?" "Because they needed help," Claire said simply. "That's enough for most humans." The images moved forward through time. Korea, Vietnam, countless smaller conflicts. Zethkar saw the same pattern over and over. Humans fighting fiercely, then immediately helping anyone who needed it, even their former enemies. "Show him the Afghanistan footage," Dan said quietly. Claire nodded and changed the display. Desert landscapes appeared, with humans in different uniforms moving through rocky terrain. The image focused on a female soldier with dark skin and determined eyes. "This is Staff Sergeant Amy Rodriguez," Claire said. "She was leading a patrol when they were attacked." The scene played out like a nightmare. Explosions erupted around the human soldiers. Energy weapons fired from hidden positions. 2 soldiers fell, badly wounded. Zethkar watched Amy Rodriguez make a choice that defied all logic. Instead of retreating to safety, she ran into the open fire. She grabbed one wounded soldier and dragged him to cover. Then she went back for the second one. "She will die," Zethkar said, his voice strained. "The smart thing is to save herself." "Watch," Dan said softly. Amy Rodriguez did die. An energy blast caught her as she shielded the second wounded soldier with her own body. But her sacrifice gave the rest of her team time to reach the wounded men and get them to safety. Zethkar's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "She chose to die for them." "She chose to save them," Claire corrected. The dying was just what happened. The hologram shifted to show another scene. Captain John Blake stood in front of a group of alien civilians during the Kepler station incident. Zethkar recognized the species, Zelthani refugees who had fled from Vorthok expansion. "Those are my people's enemies," Zethkar said, confused. "Why is he protecting them?" They watched as enemy forces attacked the station. Captain Blake could have escaped easily. Instead, he positioned himself between the attacking forces and the refugee families. He held his ground even as overwhelming firepower focused on his position. He knew he could not win, Zethkar observed. "Why did he not retreat?" "Because retreating meant those families would die," Dan explained. He bought them time to escape. The alien commander watched John Blake fall under enemy fire. The refugees escaped because of his sacrifice. Children who would have died that day lived to grow up, all because one human decided their lives mattered more than his own. "This makes no sense," Zethkar said, his voice breaking slightly. "Your warriors throw away their lives for strangers. How does your species survive such waste?" "It's not waste," Claire said firmly. "It's what makes us strong." "How can dying for others make you strong?" Dan pulled up another image. It showed a medical tent in a war zone. Human doctors and nurses worked frantically to save wounded soldiers from both sides of the conflict. "Because when humans know their people will never abandon them, they fight harder," Claire explained. "When they know their sacrifice means something, they'll give everything they have." Zethkar stared at the medical tent. "Your healers treat enemy wounded?" "Always, even in the middle of battle." Dan pointed to one corner of the image. "See that doctor working on the alien with the head wound? That's Dr. Patricia Wells. The patient is a Korthak raider who had been trying to kill her an hour before. But why? Because he needed help. That's all the reason she needed." The alien commander's breathing became irregular. His massive hands shook as he gripped the table. "Your species wages war to protect others, even your enemies." "Sometimes our enemies become our friends once the fighting stops," Claire said gently. "Sometimes they just need to understand what we're really fighting for." Zethkar was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "We came to your worlds expecting to find warriors driven by conquest as we are. And what did you find instead? Dan asked. The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. His four eyes filled with a clear, thick liquid that began to spill down his chitinous cheeks. Warriors who fight to heal, soldiers who die for strangers, people who show mercy to those who showed them none. His voice cracked completely. We thought we understood war. We thought we understood strength. The tears flowed freely now, the first time in the alien's long life that he had cried. But your kind fights for love, and that is a weapon we have no defense against. Claire reached across the table and gently touched his massive arm. Maybe that's because you're not supposed to defend against it, Commander. Maybe you're supposed to join it. A week passed before Claire returned to the White Room. This time she brought Dr. Helen Murphy, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes who studied alien minds. Commander Zethkar looked different now. The tears had stopped, but something fundamental had changed in his yellow eyes. He looked smaller somehow despite his massive size. How are you feeling, Commander? Dr. Murphy asked as she sat down. Zethkar's mandibles clicked slowly. I do not know the words in your language. In mine, we would say my spirit is broken, but that is not quite right either. Take your time, Claire said gently. We're here to listen. The alien commander straightened in his chair, but his movement was careful, almost fragile. I have been thinking about what you showed me, about your wars and your warriors. I need to tell you something about my people. Dr. Murphy leaned forward with interest. Please go ahead. The Vorthak Empire has existed for over 2,000 years. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. Billions of beings serve us or have died fighting us. His voice was steady but hollow. We believed this made us strong. We believed this made us right. What changed your mind? Claire asked. Zethkar's four eyes focused on a spot on the white wall behind them. The first battle with your people. It was supposed to be simple. We had studied your colony on Kepler-7 for months. Farmers and builders and teachers. Soft creatures who had never known real war. But it wasn't simple, Dr. Murphy observed. No. When our ships arrived, your people fought back immediately, but that was not strange. Many species fight when cornered. The alien paused, his claws scraping against the table. What happened next? That was when everything I believed began to break. Claire and Dr. Murphy waited in silence. One of my best warriors, Sub-Commander Thys, was shot down during the first assault. His ship crashed in your settlement. He was trapped inside, badly hurt. Zethkar's voice grew quieter. I watched through our battle cameras as one of your humans found him. What did the human do? Dr. Murphy asked gently. She was small, even for your species, brown hair pulled back. She wore the clothes of a medical worker. The alien's breathing became uneven. She could have left Thys to die. She could have killed him while he was helpless. Instead, she crawled into the burning wreckage to pull him out, even though he was the enemy, even though he had been trying to kill her just minutes before. Zethkar's mandibles clicked rapidly. I ordered my warriors to provide cover fire so she could work. I did not understand why, but I could not let her die while saving one of my people. Claire made a note on her datapad. What was her name? Marine Corporal Lisa Chen. I learned this later. The alien commander's voice cracked slightly. She spent 3 hours operating on Thys in a bombed-out medical building, while the battle raged around them, while my warriors and yours killed each other in the streets. Did he survive? Dr. Murphy asked. Yes. But that is not the important part. Zethkar looked directly at them for the first time. The important part is what she said when I asked her why she saved him. What did she say? Because he needed help. That was all. No grand speech about honor or duty or strategy. Just because he needed help. The alien's voice dropped to a whisper. In Vorthak culture, the wounded are abandoned. They slow down the army. They waste resources. But she saved an enemy who would have left her to die. Dr. Murphy nodded slowly. How did that make you feel? Confused, angry, afraid. Zethkar's claws extended and retracted nervously. I had built my entire life on the idea that strength was everything, that the weak deserved to suffer. But here was this small human showing more strength than any Vorthak warrior I had ever known. Because she chose compassion over cruelty? Because she chose to help when she could have chosen to harm? The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Then there was Corporal Billy Patterson. Claire looked up from her notes. Tell us about him. Young male, barely more than a child by your standards. He was assigned to guard our wounded prisoners. Zethkar's 4 eyes blinked slowly. My Lieutenant Zaris had internal injuries. Your doctor said he would die without surgery, but the medical bay was under constant attack. What did Corporal Patterson do? He stayed with Zaris for 6 hours. 6 hours of surgery while explosions shook the building, while enemy fire came through the windows, while other humans begged him to abandon the alien and save himself. The alien's voice grew thick with emotion. He never left. He never stopped working. When a piece of shrapnel cut his own arm, he bandaged it quickly and kept operating. Dr. Murphy leaned back in her chair. And Lieutenant Zaris survived? Yes. He is here on this ship now in your medical bay. Your doctors are still caring for him. Zethkar's voice broke completely. In our culture, Zaris would have been left to die the moment he was wounded. But your child soldier spent 6 hours saving the life of someone who came to destroy everything he loved. Tears began flowing down the alien's face again. Half of my surviving warriors have requested asylum rather than return to the Empire. They cannot face going back to a culture that throws away the wounded and weak. What did they tell you? Claire asked softly. That they have seen something their species never developed. Compassion in warfare. Mercy for enemies. Strength used to protect instead of to conquer. Zethkar wiped his eyes with the back of his massive hand. They said they cannot be Vorthak warriors anymore. They want to be something better. And what about you, Commander? Dr. Murphy asked. What do you want to be? Zethkar was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was steady but completely changed. I want to understand how your species learned to fight for others instead of fighting for yourself. I want to know how you became strong enough to show mercy to those who showed you none. That's a good start, Claire said with a small smile. There is more, the alien continued. Your people have offered to let me return to my empire with a message of peace, or to remain here as a prisoner of war, or to request political asylum like my warriors. But you want something else? Yes. Zethkar looked directly at both women. I want to serve as a bridge between our species. I want to teach my people what I have learned about true strength, about the power of protecting instead of conquering. Dr. Murphy smiled. That's a very human thing to want, Commander. Perhaps, he said quietly, perhaps that is what I am becoming. 2 weeks later, Commander Zethkar stood in the largest meeting room on the ship. His massive form looked strange in the formal setting, but he carried himself differently now. The anger and pride that had defined him were gone, replaced by something quieter but stronger. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat at the head of a long table surrounded by officers from different species. Humans, Zelthani, Korthak, and others who made up the Galactic Coalition. All of them watched the alien commander with curious eyes. Commander Zethkar, Admiral Sullivan began, her voice formal but not unkind. You have requested to address the Coalition Council. The floor is yours, Zethkar stepped forward. His 4 yellow eyes looked at each face around the table. Honored members of the Coalition, I come before you not as the warrior I was, but as someone who has learned what true strength means. A Korthak representative leaned forward. You led raids against our colonies. You enslaved our children. Why should we listen to anything you have to say? Because I have seen something that changed me forever, Zethkar replied calmly. I have seen humans fight not for conquest but for protection. I have watched your species show mercy to those who showed you none. Admiral Sullivan gestured for him to continue. Please explain, Commander. Zethkar's mandibles clicked once before he spoke. 3 months ago, I believed the Vorthak Empire was the strongest force in the galaxy. We had conquered hundreds of worlds. We ruled through fear and strength. We thought this made us superior. And now, asked a Zelthani delegate, now I know we were never strong at all. We were just bullies attacking those weaker than ourselves. The alien's voice grew steadier as he spoke. When we encountered humans, we learned what real strength looks like. Dr. Murphy, who sat near the Admiral, nodded encouragingly. Strength is not the ability to destroy your enemies, Zethkar continued. Strength is the choice to heal them instead. Strength is not conquering the weak. Strength is protecting them from those who would do them harm. A human general spoke up. Pretty words, Commander. But your empire is still out there. They're still attacking colonies and enslaving people. What can you do about that? Zethkar straightened to his full height. I want to return to my people. Not as a conqueror, but as a teacher. I want to show them what I have learned. That sounds dangerous, Admiral Sullivan observed. Your empire might see you as a traitor. They probably will. They might execute me the moment I arrive. The alien commander's voice was calm, almost peaceful. But some of them might listen. Some of them might learn what I learned here. Claire Martinez, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward. What exactly do you want to tell them? Zethkar turned to face her. I want to tell them about Sergeant Mike Torres, who spent his leave time teaching Vorthak children to read. Children whose parents we had enslaved. Children who should have hated him. What about Sergeant Torres? He taught them your language and your history. He showed them pictures of Earth and told them stories about human heroes. When I asked him why, he said it was because every child deserves to dream of something better. Tears began flowing down the alien's face again. In Vorthak culture, we would have worked those children until they died. But your sergeant gave them hope. The room was completely silent. I want to tell them about Dr. Sarah Kim, who spent 6 months developing medicine to cure a disease that was killing Vorthak prisoners of war, a disease that only affected our species. Zethkar's voice grew stronger. She could have let us die. We were her enemies. Instead, she worked day and night to save lives that meant nothing to her people. Why do you think she did that? Dr. Murphy asked gently. Because she is human. Because humans believe every life has value, even the lives of their enemies. The alien commander wiped his eyes. I want to tell my people about Peace Corps volunteer Nancy Foster, who is working with young Vorthak refugees right here on this ship. Admiral Sullivan raised an eyebrow. What is she teaching them? Not your military tactics or your weapons technology. She is teaching them about your art and music and literature. She is showing them that there are ways to be strong without hurting others. Zethkar's voice cracked with emotion. Yesterday I watched her help a young Vorthak girl plant flowers in the ship's garden. The child had never seen growing things before. She had only known war and conquest. And how did that make you feel? Claire asked. It made me realize that my empire has never created anything beautiful. We have only taken and destroyed. But humans create beauty even in the middle of war, even when surrounded by enemies. The alien commander's tears flowed freely now. I want to teach my people how to create instead of destroy, how to protect instead of conquer. General Harrison, a gruff older man, spoke up. What makes you think they'll listen? Some will not. Many will call me weak and try to kill me. Zethkar met the general's eyes steadily. But some will remember that they have children too. Some will wonder what it would be like to live without fear and anger. Some will want to learn how to be strong like humans are strong. Admiral Sullivan was quiet for a long moment. What exactly are you proposing, Commander? Let me return to Vorthak space as a cultural ambassador. Let me carry recordings of what I have seen here. Let me show them that there is another way to live. His voice grew passionate. Let me prove that strength comes from compassion, not cruelty. That's a suicide mission, the Korthak representative said bluntly. Perhaps. But if even one Vorthak child learns to plant flowers instead of wielding weapons, it will be worth it. Zethkar looked around the table at all the faces watching him. Your species has taught me that some things are worth dying for. Peace is one of them. Admiral Sullivan stood up slowly. The council will need time to discuss this proposal. I understand. But while you decide, I have one more request. What is it? Zethkar's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. I want to record a message to my homeworld. I want them to hear what I have learned. I want them to know that I have seen humans fight hopeless battles not for conquest, but for strangers. I want them to understand what real strength looks like. Claire smiled through her own tears. We can arrange that, Commander. Thank you. The alien warrior who had come to destroy human colonies bowed deeply to the council. Thank you for showing me what it means to be truly strong. As he left the meeting room, Zethkar walked past a window that showed the stars outside. Somewhere out there was his homeworld, full of warriors who still believed that might made right, but now he had something more powerful than any weapon to take back to them. He had hope.